Hello, my name is Alex Linde, and today we're going to be covering how to set up Okta for federation with CyberArk Identity. The first step is we're going to log in to our administrative portal for CyberArk. Once you're logged in, we're going to navigate to the bottom under the section called Users, and we're going to go under External Identity Providers. Here, we're going to click Add and call our identity provider Okta. Next, we will need to add in the federation domain. When a user logs in with this domain, then the CyberArk identity system will know that we need to redirect users with that domain to Okta for authentication. So this is very important. The next step is to add the group mappings. We'll need to add at least one group mapping so that we can define rules on how the users will be authenticated and what apps and rights they have within CyberArk Identity. So first, on the left side here, under Group Attribute Value, you're going to put in the name of your user group within Okta. And on the right side, we're going to give a name such as imported from Okta that will identify these users in CyberArk Identity. This functions similar to a role in that you can assign applications to it, give these users certain rights, etc. At this point, it's important to avoid clicking on the inbound metadata and skip straight to the outbound metadata, change to manual configuration, option 3, and then take a note of the service provider authentication response URL, as well as the subject here. What you'll probably want to do is open up a notepad or similar and just copy those over there. At this point, you'll need to switch over to your Okta tenant. I'm already logged in to my Okta tenant. If you don't have an Okta tenant, then you can look up Okta developer tenant registration or something similar, which will land you to the Okta free trial account. You need to make sure to get the developer account, and this will give you everything that you need to explore Okta. This is what I'm using over here. You'll go to Applications, Create App Integration, and select SAML 2.0. You'll want to give your app a descriptive name such as CyberArk Identity, or if you're using this for integration with CyberArk Workforce Password Management, you could call it CyberArk Workforce Password Management. And then optionally, you'll want to upload a logo. It's good to have the CyberArk logo in here so that when you're in Okta, you can easily find it. So I'll do that over here. And then click Next. Now, when we get to the Configure SAML section of this, we'll want to go back to our Notepad file. We'll copy the URL first and put it into the single sign-on URL. And for the audience URI, we're going to use that second value. Next, we will scroll down and add some attributes. The most important one is user principal name, and that's going to be set to user.login. Optional attributes including other things that you may want to carry over from Okta to CyberArk Identity. So display name is going to be user.display name. We'll also add login name, mobile number, email address, and that should be sufficient. Now, under the group attributes section, we also need to make sure that we can get our Okta user group into CyberArk identity. So we'll call it group, and we'll say it starts with Okta users. And this will allow the Okta users group to authenticate into identity. Now we'll click Next. We'll select I'm a software vendor, and we'll click Finish. Now, before we can start testing this stuff, we'll need to go into our directory and make sure that we have some users and some groups assigned to this application. We'll start with the group section. We'll call our group Okta users as we did in the past, and we'll save this. We'll assign people to it later. First, we're going to create a new person. This will be our test user. And then we can assign him to the Okta users group. We can also set a password for him to make life easier for ourselves. And we can uncheck that user must change the password so that the user doesn't actually have to do that. And now he's added, and he's been added to the correct group as well. Just for testing, you might want to open up another incognito window, try to log into your Okta account again as jack@oktausers.com or whatever your test user is, and just make sure that you're actually able to log in with him. This will help you to be able to figure out if there's an issue logging into Okta versus an issue with federating to identity later on. And it looks like I'm able to authenticate with him, so I'll go ahead and close that window. Now that we have the users and the groups, it's really important to go back to our applications and assign this application to the Okta users group so that our test user or users are able to connect. Going back into our application, under the Sign On tab, right-click the identity provider metadata and copy the link address. Now, switching back to the CyberArk portal, we're finally ready to go to the inbound metadata and paste that link in here. Now, the authentication section here is optional. If you would like to in the future enable URL redirecting, this will allow you to create a complete redirect so that in Okta portal, you can have tiles for specific applications in CyberArk Identity. So you can enable that for the future. If both Okta and CyberArk Identity are also tied to the same Active Directory, then you can also optionally map the users. In this case, the only change you would do is just simply choose your Active Directory and then click Save. And now let's test the setup. We are currently in the admin page under the users, and there is no jack@oktausers in here yet. He has not been created. So now what we can do is we can go to the user portal and attempt to log in. If everything goes right, we're going to get redirected to the Okta portal, put in our password, and when we log in to Okta, we'll automatically get redirected to CyberArk Identity. As you can see, no applications have been added yet. We get a Get Started page, and we can just cancel out of that and start our work. If we now switch back to our admin page, we can click the federated user set over here, and now we can see that our jack@oktausers person has been added automatically into the CyberArk's directory. Now let's test the integration again from Okta side. Going back to a login, we'll log in as Jack to Okta. And when we log in, we should get the CyberArk Identity app showing up over here. If we click on that application, it will also sign us in. And that concludes our demo of how to set up Okta Federation for CyberArk Identity. Thank you very much.